Hey guys, it's Tyler with TCG Rewind. Today I wanted to do a quick breakdown of the Tengumania2 tournament we had yesterday. Just get into this now because let's be honest, I streamed for like 10 hours yesterday and it was exhausting. And if you want to check out the VODs, the VOD for that is on my Twitch, twitch.tv/TCG Rewind. I might try to upload the whole thing to YouTube, but I don't have no idea what the process of uploading a 10-hour video is because that's how long the tournament was. But still, crazy cool matches occurred on stream yesterday. Some really back and forth gameplay. It was a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun to cast. Shout out to Dave from Who Needs Meta for helping me cast that whole event. It was sick. But also we have we have all the lists. So we have all the different deck types here listed on the right. I'm hoping you guys can see this. But you know, I'll kind of reiterate for you just in case you cannot. But yeah, it was a really interesting tournament. We had roughly 40 entrants. I feel like there were some people that kind of like registered and AFK'd. So like, I don't know, let's like make an average, maybe like 38 or something. I don't know. I know there was a few people that like registered but weren't there. But we had a pretty decent spread of deck representation. And especially for like one of our like the earlier times, this is like the second time they've done this tournament. This is the first time I helped participate in this tournament, helped sponsor it. We saw a lot of growth. I think their first tournament they had 20 or 25 people come play, and this one we had close to 40. So you know, that's definitely some growth, and it's showing that our format is growing, and that's great because it should. It's the best format Yu-Gi-Oh's ever had. But yeah. So let's just take a look at the analysis here. Let's take a look at the decks represented. We had YCS Columbus legal, which like some people choose not to do that because of Dark World, but we kind of wanted to put that test out there to see like, you know, is Dark World really as scary as people made it out to be? As you can see here, we had exactly one Dark World list represented. And yeah, so like there was just the single Dark World list in the entire pool. We had 3 Chaos decks, 4 Chaos Agent lists. Then we had 1 Dark World list, 2 Fabled lists, which I thought was really interesting. I didn't think this deck would be as popular as it was. We had 2 Frog Monarchs, 1 Generation Fish, which is like some like banished fish deck. It was like kind of like a Macrocosmos-esque deck, but I don't know. It was like an interesting build, to say the least. I have no idea what it was going for here, but I don't know much about it. Then we had Gravekeepers. We had a single Gravekeeper deck. We had 3 Heroes, 2 Infernity, 2 Piper Chaos, 3 Quick Draw, which also was pretty surprising. We had a single Scrap player. I'm not sure if this was one of the AFK players or not. I never saw a Scrap player throughout the whole tournament. In fact, I even said there wasn't one represented on stream, but I guess there was. I never noticed this. Then we had 2 TG Stun, and then 1 TG, and then 1 TG Agents. And I know that this person was AFK because they were using like my exact build from YCS Kansas City as their list, and they were missing. So sad to not see how that would do. I was curious, but it's fine. And then we had 7 Tengu Plant players, which is you know, that's to be expected. It's like one of the more popular or like more well-known decks of the format. I think this is going to be like a defaulted deck for a lot of people early on. I think more people will kind of branch out as they get to know the format a bit better. But yeah, like I said, it's no surprise this saw the most representation. And then we have our test accounts, and then 2 the mods labeled this as Winged Beast, but we later found out the deck name was Falcon Punch, and we'll go over that in a second. Lastly, we had X-Saber and Zombies, so we had 1 of each of those, which I also thought this was crazy. I thought X-Sabers was more popular, but we only had the 1, which yeah, I just thought that was incredible. So yeah, those are all the decks that were represented. So a decent spread out of all the like 40 participants. We had 19 unique builds or unique deck types represented, which is really cool. But I also wanted to talk about some of the decks that I think are like really powerful that we didn't see any of. And that was, we have There was no Karkuri, Nordic, Psychic, Dragoonity, Gadgets or Machina Gadgets, Herald of Perfection, Lancer Frogs, Macrocosmos, or Worms. No one played those decks. And I honestly think, like, especially decks like Nordics and Psychics, even Lancer Frogs, these decks are really, really strong. So I was kind of surprised to not see any of them. And I guess Karkuri. Karkuri historically was a very powerful deck in this format. So interesting to see that we didn't have a lot of people, like, or we didn't have any people piloting these. But, you know, that just leaves room for the next couple of tournaments, you know. Let's get some more people trying to spread out the diversity of the format, because there's so many really powerful decks that, you know, just flew under the radar, and I think these are a solid list of them. Anyway, let's look at the top 8 breakdown, because that was crazy. Okay, so we gotta look at this top 8 breakdown because it's definitely not what I expected. The first thing I'll point out right out the gate is we didn't have any TGs in Top Cut, nor did we have a Dark World, which there was only one Dark World deck represented. So, but it does kind of show that, you know, Dark World is a beatable beast. You know, it's not as scary as people like to make it out to be. But yeah, no TG or Dark World. I find that very interesting. If we want to look at the breakdown, we had 3 Chaos Agents in Top Cut, which that's the only deck that actually repeated itself. Otherwise, we had 1 Hero, 1 Saber, 1 Quick Draw, 1 Chaos Agents, 1 Tengu Plant, and 1 Falcon Punch. We'll talk about Falcon Punch in a bit. We'll start with Chill Phil's Chaos Agent list, so we'll take a look at it. We have, let's see, we have 3 Herald of Orange Light in the main. I think that's pretty interesting. He's opting for the, like, let's make Christia as quickly as possible. And then there also is 1 Chaos Sork in the main, which is interesting. Didn't opt to, like, add more copies of that, but, you know, I think that makes sense given all the boss monsters. You don't want to clog too much. And then Jupiter. Running Jupiter is also pretty unique because of the fact that, like, a lot of people opt to cut this list. If you've seen, like, Joe's videos on Agents, he's talked about how Jupiter isn't very good and it probably should be cut. I kind of agree with that, so I wonder how this played out for him today, or yesterday. And then, yeah, Treacherous Trap Hole, only 2 MSC. A lot of people like to run 3 just because this deck doesn't really like playing into back row very much. And then triple or double Duality. I'm not really a fan of Duality in Agents, so I wonder how this worked out. But, I mean, made top 8, so probably fine. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much a standard Chaos Agent list. We'll move on. So we have Ollie Nolly's Heroes list. So, interestingly enough, we have hand traps in the main deck, which I find to be kind of odd. Like, typically, this deck just relies on its back row so much that a lot of people don't opt to run hand traps in the main. If you've seen Joe's list from 2012, he wasn't running any hand traps. He just wanted to focus on back row and like keeping that alive, because, like, for example, there's no Dark Bribe in this list, which I think is a bit scary. Like, your only protection is Starlight Road and Judgment for heavy, and in reality you really just want to be able to set as many cards as possible and play like that. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about these. I think you can side max these if you're going against a very special 7 heavy deck, but I don't really agree with maining them in here. And then some other cards in the list that are kind of unique. We have 1 Skill Drain, which Joe's list played 2. And I think the reason why they opted to run 1 was because of the fact that there wasn't really, like, because of the fact that TGs and, like, Dark World are in this format, which means that this could come up as, like, dead against some of those decks. So it might be better to run this as a one-of and then side the second one in the event that you're playing a deck that actually gets hurt by Skill Drain. So I think that was a pretty smart approach. Like, that's a good optimization for a 2011 hero list versus 2012. And then, of course, we have a Snowman Eater. This is just to get access to Absolute Zero, and I don't really disagree with that either. This card's pretty good overall. It's a nice, like, defensive wall and also being able to pop a card. This card's really strong. And then in the side deck, you know, I'll pull up, I have like a little dueling book link to cover some of these cards. So we have Ally Salvo. I don't know if you've seen this card before. It says if this card is destroyed by battle with a light monster and sent to the graveyard, select 2 cards on the field and destroy them. So this is probably a nice little side card for agents, and also probably pretty decent against heroes. But yeah, I don't know. It feels a little slow to me, so I don't know how well this is gonna pan out. I feel like once this resolves once, your opponent won't get hit by it again, and but at the same time, it can kind of blow your opponent out in certain circumstances. So I understand the logic, I guess. And then they're also running Dragonite Draco Equesti. This is just a super poly target in the event that your opponent has like a Scrap Dragon or Stardust on board. You can just fuse with it and make this guy. I have no idea how relevant this card was or how often it came up, but yeah, I do understand why they would opt for it. Other than that, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about this hero list. Pretty solid all around. Like I said, I disagree with the hand traps in the main, but other than that, I do like the optimization they made. Let's see. We'll go to Z Shenlong's Chaos Agents. So this is a really interesting build to me, and that's because it's running almost like it's like looking to go kind of like the 2012 style of the Trooper Agents. We have the 2 Call the Haunteds in the main with Card Trooper, as well as Herald of Orange Light. But what I think is weird about this is I think if you're going to go this route, if you're going to go with the Call the Haunteds, you should max out on copies of Card Trooper, probably even max out on copies of Herald of Orange Light, maybe cut the Chaos Sork and just kind of go for just kind of all in on that strategy of like the Trooper Agent list. I think it has potential, and obviously like they got 6th place, so absolutely it had potential. It definitely worked to a certain degree. Yeah. The deck is really unique. I also am a big fan of creature swapping agents. I think it's really good. You summon Venus, you summon 3 Shine Ball, make a Gotchi, and then give them the 3rd Shine Ball. Pretty good. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about this list. Yeah, we'll move on to X-Saber. So this is Grapha, and I actually have the wrong list here. We'll pull up this one. Technically, he was running an illegal card, but he said he never summoned it, and none of the mods caught it. It wasn't intentional. He didn't know. It was like X-Saber Souza. So we'll pull up this here. Okay. So, like I said, technically he was using an illegal list because he had this X-Saber Souza in, but he did say he never summoned it, and I watched a lot of his games, and I never saw him summon it. This would be on the mods for not like realizing that it was an illegal card. I would understand the mistake on his part as well. But yeah, this card was released in 2012, not 2011, so pretty close timeline. I get the mistake, but didn't really add any relevancy. This list is actually very similar to my list that I put on my website or on my YouTube channel. The only difference is he cut the level limit area B for Mirror Force. And I could kind of understand why. If you want to, like, a lot of people have seen my list and stuff like that since it's on YouTube and stuff like that. So maybe his adaptation is run a very similar list, make people think he's net decking, and then blow people out with this Mirror Force. Not a bad plan. I think a lot of people did that with, like, Billy Breaks plants too. Tech a Mirror Force in to blow people out with it. Because most, like, Tengu plants lists didn't run Mirror Force or anything, right? So, yeah, interesting approach. But overall, List performed really well. He was the only X-Saber player in the entire tournament, and he got 5th place. So that speaks lengths of the strength of this deck. I'm a big advocate for it. I think it's very underrated, and honestly, I think he like misplayed a bit in his like top cut round, which I think if he would have won that match against Falcon Punch, which I think this deck has a very good matchup into that deck, I think he could have gone on to win the whole event. He did play very well, but just a few misplays in that top cut match, the last match that knocked him into losers, to kind of, I guess, prevent him from having a really good run, or the best run, which is winning. But yeah, overall, really cool to see. Glad to see that, I guess, the list is working out for him, right? But yeah, so now Crimson Typhoon topped with Quick Draw. That is crazy to me, because Quick Draw, honestly, it's a hard deck to pull off in this format. Like, This deck gets butchered by Maxi and Valor, right? It's like its biggest weakness, and those cards are floating around in pretty much every deck. So like it's a tough deck to like run, and for Quick Draw to make 4th place in this tournament is absurdly impressive to me. It shows that like it speaks lengths on Crimson Typhoon as a player, being able to pilot it to like that far into the tournament, and then it also shows that like, you know, regardless of these hand traps and stuff like that, you can still win. We'll take a look and see the list. Right out the gate, the one thing I personally disagree with is Tengu. I think Tengu has a lot of anti-synergy with cards in the deck, such as Tuning and like Raiko, even Lila. But yeah, it's a bit sus. But I guess it worked. Both the quick draw lists I saw in this format were running Tengu. So, you know, I could be wrong, but I just feel like the milling a Tengu just feels so bad. Other than that, it's a pretty standard quick draw list. The Scapegoat is a nice tech. But I also feel like if you're going to run Scapegoat, you should run Econ and Tengu. If you're opting for it, you should run Econ, right? But deck space is really hard when you're trying to run this Doppel engine. The Doppel engine does feel very, very good, especially in conjunction with a lot of the plant cards, and Level Leader is just a bonkers card. But yeah, overall, absurdly good run for a Junk Doppel deck. Like, I would have never guessed that this deck could have top 4. And then let's see. So we had 3rd place Ladder Goat. Ladder Goat played so well this event. Honestly, probably could have gone on to win the whole thing. Ladder Goat, like, honestly was very impressive, and this list is honestly pretty good. I like the upstarts, you know, just trying to add consistency. Isn't opting to run Chaos Sork, and is more so just focused on trying to get the boss monsters as quickly as possible. I swear I saw Ladder Goat summon Tour Guide probably a gajillion times this entire event. It was such a relevant card for him, and it always came up at the clutchest times. Like, Ladder Goat just had some insane RNG with like the cards that they saw, like, you know, like between Herald of Orange Light and Tour Guide. Made the deck look very, very strong. And I mean, Agents is a very strong deck in this format, but yeah, was super impressive to see. And then in 2nd place, we had Tia, or Jaden Yuki. I don't know which name they want to go by, but playing Tengu plants. And this is pretty standard plants, except for the fact that they have 2 Dimensional Prison in the main deck, which is a very unique approach, right? It's like this, like, it's like that same logic of, if most people are playing this deck without battle traps, then it's kind of good to put a battle trap in because people won't play around it. It's also really nice spot removal for Thunder King, which hard butchers Tengu plants. This list went undefeated up until the finals, and unfortunately they had to leave in like the grands basically because the tournament went on for so long. So they opted to like basically take 2nd place, like, you know, scoop the grands, which is crazy because they're undefeated, and then they lost to reset the bracket to go to grand finals, and then yeah, they opted to pass the win over to the other player. So unfortunately we didn't get to see a 2nd match play out, but yeah, overall absurdly well played by Tia. So well played. If you want to check out the VODs for that, I would definitely recommend it. Go check out Tia's VODs. That super optimally played Tengu plants. So really, really good to see. And then lastly, this is this is the big kahuna here. This is the deck that you've all been waiting to see the coverage of. This is Falcon Punch. And yeah, this list is crazy. Like, this list is so crazy. When I first saw this deck, I was like, there is no way that this is going to do anything. But yeah, this is the list. And it's going to look really confusing, because to me even, it was super confusing until you actually see it played. So I would definitely recommend going to my Twitch VODs and checking it out. Or like I said, if I can get it to upload to YouTube, I will. But yeah. So Himni was playing this build, and he was a monster on it. Like, played this list perfectly. In fact, it was like him and his friend, who was named like Darksigner. Darksigner was the designer of the deck, and both of them decided to pilot in this tournament, and Himni just piloted it extremely well. Just played it so perfectly. And it all goes off the basis of using Mist Valley Falcon to bounce a lot of your continuous trap cards. It's a really unique approach, and like there's a lot of layers to it, so we'll kind of break it down piece by piece. So the first idea is you have cards like Fiendish Chain, Call of the Haunted, Limit Reverse, these continuous traps, and you can kind of repetitively abuse them by bouncing them to hand with like the likes of Mist Valley Falcon, right? That's pretty simple. But then where it gets really interesting is he has this card called Dragunity Darkspear. I don't know if you've seen it, but we'll pull it up here on Dueling Book. Alright, so here's Dragunity Darkspear. My DV timed out. Okay, so yeah. It says, once per turn, you can tribute one Dragon Dragunity monster, then target one level 4 or lower Winged Beast monster in your graveyard. Special summon that target. So, how this works with cards like Limit Reverse is when it tributes, or even Call the Haunted, when it tributes itself, which is what you're using it for, it leaves the Call of the Haunted and Limit Reverse on the field as dead cards. So, pretty unique and crazy, because what this can do is you can tribute it to bring back Falcon and then bounce back the Limit Reverse, basically creating this like resource loop of, oh hey, I bring back my Dragunity Darkspear, I tribute it off to bring back another level 4 lower Winged Beast, so that can be Falcon, that can be Gale, that can be Zephyros, technically could theoretically be DD Crow, and yeah, it'll like, and then you can just keep bouncing it back with Mist Valley Falcon. But in the event that you have like a Falcon and Darkspear, you would then synchro into Mist Valley Thunderlord. So we'll pull that up as well, just so you guys can see what this card is if you haven't seen it before. One tuner, one or more non-tuner Mist Valley monsters. Once per turn, it's a quick effect. You can target one other card you control, return that target to the hand, and if you do, this card gains 500 attack until the end of this turn. So one of the other cool plays I saw him do a lot in this tournament was he would have like a Sangan engrave, and once he had made Mist Valley Thunderbird, he would go into his opponent's turn. On their draw phase, he would activate Limit Reverse, bring back a Sangan, and then he would use the Mist Valley Thunderbird's effect to bounce the Limit Reverse to the hand, popping the Sangan, which would enable him to search one of his hand traps. And that's why he ran one of each, because he wanted one, like basically he used it to toolbox out the hand trap he would need for the situation he was in, which is honestly just kind of like bonkers crazy. It definitely worked out. It worked out almost perfectly. And the other thing is you can also do this with the likes of like, you can bring back Card Trooper and bounce it and pop Card Trooper for a draw one. So like you can either search or draw a card using this little like loop effect, and that even means you can do things like, oh hey, I call the Haunted Card Trooper, and then mill 3, attack with Card Trooper, then attack with Mist Valley Falcon, bounce the Call of the Haunted, pop the Card Trooper, draw a card, so you get that extra attack in and get to draw. Has so many unique plays, even things like you can use like the Zephyros Gale combo. You can like Darkspear into a Gale, bounce the Gale with Zephyros, and then special summon Gale, and then you can make cards like Blackwing Armor Master. It's really hard to just list out all the different plays that this deck was capable of doing in this video. Like I said, the best way to showcase this deck is to really just go watch the VODs. At least like the last 2 games, like the top 3 and then top 2. Those were the matches that were like played so perfectly by him. Like incredible player, super unique design, and for me this really just showcases how diverse this format really is. I mean, I created a 72 deck library for the format, and somehow he managed to create a deck I've never seen before, right? So it just proves to me that this format is extremely unsolved still. There's still so much to learn, and it's so much more diverse than people often give it credit for. Because to not only come up with a unique build that I've never seen before, but then also have it win the entire event, that's crazy. That is so crazy. And I feel like there's so much more to see, because, we still did have, we had 40 people participating, but you know, imagine with like 100 people, like and like with all the other decks that still could have been represented that weren't. Yeah, super exciting. I really can't wait to see this format grow and expand into what I know it can be. Because like I said, to me, this is the Smash Melee of Yu-Gi-Oh formats, right? It's like any player can play any deck that they are very passionate about, and they can practice and like work on that deck all the way down until they get to a point where they are just playing that deck perfectly. And with the right player and the right build, they can win with anything, in the same way that in like Smash Melee, like people can take a character that people say is bad and they can play it so well that it becomes good. An example being like Amsa in Smash, if you follow Smash Melee. He's like the best Yoshi in the world. Yoshi was considered like pretty bad until Amsa came around. And then Amsa's like finishing top cut in every single tournament he plays in. So yeah, super crazy. Super crazy to look at and think about. But yeah, overall, fantastic tournament. It was a fantastic event. If you missed out, try to get in the next one, because I swear it was a blast to cast. I had a lot of fun casting with David from Who Needs Meta, and just kind of like getting to show off and showcase just how great and diverse and fun this format is. I really hope this can inspire some of you guys to kind of take a deeper dive and maybe see and like try some new things in this format, because in reality there are so many decks to try. This format is so raw balanced that like you can make any deck work, especially if you're really passionate about it. If you really like a certain art type, you know, push it to its limits, because that's what Himne ended up doing, and that's how they won, right? So yeah, I think that wraps it up for this meta breakdown and analysis. I'll probably try to post these like links to the lists on my Twitter or something. I might even just make them actual download links, and we'll see what we can do. And I'm working on getting a page added for tournament data on my website, tcgrewind.com. So we'll try to look for that in the future. But I'm not sure how long that'll take. So like I said, it might just go on my Twitter at tcgrewind if you want to check the list there. Otherwise, feel free to join the Tengu Plant Discord. You can ask questions in there. So a lot of the players are still hanging out in there talking about their lists. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and make sure you guys have a great time doing today.